Hi guys, and welcome to Whisky Geek for another whisky review. Today I'm doing a Talisker. This is the Game of Thrones bottle, the Talisker Select Reserve or House Greyjoy. Don't really care that it's the Game of Thrones bottling, to be honest. I bought this one because I kind of struggle to get into Talisker. I know Talisker is a distillery that a lot of people hold in high regard and they really enjoy, heralding the 10-year-old as an excellent value for money. But for me, I find it to be quite a harsh, dry, ashy, almost acrid style of whiskey, and it's never something that I've chimed with, never something I've enjoyed. Talisker is a distillery I would really like to go and visit, not just because it's on the Isle of Skye and I want to explore Skye, but because they've got quite an interesting setup, some interesting equipment. 2 wash stills and 3 spirit stills, interesting balance, and the wash stills are equipped with a purifier. The only other distillery I know of that have a former purifier is Ardbeg, but the Talisker purifier sounds like it's almost a heat exchanger. They use outdoors cool air to create more condensation. Condensation leads to spirit trickling back into the stills, more copper interaction. They also have worm tub condensers, which are less efficient than shell and tube condensers, which are the more common way of cooling your evaporate. But that, because it's less efficient, means it draws less of a vacuum, so less of the evaporate is being pulled from the stills, which all leads to much more reflux, much more of this copper interaction, which should mean that the spirit is less abrasive, less coarse. Everything that I'm finding that I dislike about it is almost like it's trying to be counteracted with the equipment, and to me it's not quite going far enough. Anyway, because of those characteristics that I don't particularly like about Talisker, I was drawn to this bottle. The idea of a Talisker that was intended to be a foot in the door for the Talisker distillery seemed like exactly what I needed, so I grabbed the bottle. And I've got to say, it has kind of worked for me. I've enjoyed this bottle and sitting with this bottle the most out of any Talisker that I've had to date. Hopefully, the other Taliskers that I have on the shelves, when I open them, I will find them to be a nice progression and I will continue to enjoy my Talisker experience. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. Of course, this being a Diageo product, it means it's chill filtered, it's coloured, it says Mitfarb stuff on the tin. Weirdly, it's bottled at 45.8% ABV. Not sure why they picked that ABV. And it's also a non-age statement. But regardless, we will take a look at the colour. I have this one down as a shade 9 or Social Madeira. So let's explore the nose. So initially, warm and welcoming. There's a nice balance of maritime tones, which I'm really enjoying, with some sweetness. There's a touch of caramel. Behind that is the peatiness. It's in the background, bolstering everything. It's still that dry, tarry peat which I associate with Talisker, but it's not, because it's not cloying, it's not abrasive. I'm enjoying it. That's kind of backed up by some mulchy, earthy, peaty aromas, but the maritime is bold, and that's what's foreground to me. It's quite a nice woodiness to it, some warm vanilla, gentle spice and pepper. There's a subtle fudge and some green tones, almost like a fresh cut grass. It's rich enough, rounded, and there's a gentle prickle to it. Palate next. So the palate is more of the characteristics that I would typically associate with Talisker. Pepper and oak, drying, and that characteristic coarse, ashy smoke. That maritime has kind of gone to the background. It's more subdued now. There's some sweet vanilla tones though, tannins, woody, touch of hay, quite a nice kind of biscuity cereal element, and a really subtle fruitiness, kind of almost stone fruits. On the finish you get this chilly heat that kind of rolls in, but it's mellow, it's not abrasive really. There is subtle, salty smoked meats, a green tone and some dry woodiness, and a lingering leather. It's quite tannins on the finish, but not in a cloying or a particularly bitter way. It's quite rounded. So I think I've enjoyed this the most of any Talisker that I've ever spent any time with, but my experience to date has mostly been the cheaper end of the spectrum. 10-year-old a couple of times, but mostly the no age statements. I've rated this one a 78%, reasonable score. I'm fairly sure it's got quite a bit of young whiskey in it, some virgin oak, a touch of sherry, refill sherry I think as well, bolstering with this sweetness and the niceties. I do think this is one of the better Game of Thrones bottles that they released. It's certainly one of the ones I've enjoyed the most. And I'm looking forward to following this one up with either the Talisker Distillers Edition or the Port Rugi, I think it is, that I've got on the shelves. One of those I think will work well for me because it will be more Talisker, but it's also still got some of those sweetnesses to try and balance things. So thanks again for watching, guys. Hope you've enjoyed. If you have, do all the good stuff below, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Cheers.